Okay, so get this. What if your clothes could, basically take care of themselves and you too? We're talking temperature control, built-in nutrition, like the whole shebang. Sounds pretty sci-fi, right?
Yeah, it does.
Well, that's exactly what we're going to be diving into today, based on this article that you sent over.
Yeah.
It really got me thinking, how far-fetched is this whole one-cloth idea?
Well, it's a pretty mind-bending concept, I'll give you that.
Right.
But what I find so intriguing is that while the whole package, might seem like something straight out of a movie,
Yeah. Yeah.
there are actually these threads of real science woven into the fabric of this concept.
Oh, I like that.
We're seeing these fascinating developments in fields like nanotechnology and advanced materials that suggest this might not be as far-fetched as it initially sounds.
So, okay, let's break this down a little bit. The article talks about this cloth working on multiple levels, right? It's not just about staying warm or cool.
Yeah.
It's also about getting your vitamins and never having to do laundry again.
Exactly.
What?
The core idea here is a multifunctional textile that acts as a personal ecosystem, so to speak.
Okay.
Imagine a garment that can just dynamically respond to your body's needs and the environment around you.
Okay, so instead of layering up on a freezing day,
Yeah.
this hypothetical garment could just, generate its own heat?
Yeah, that's the general idea.
Wow.
We're talking about materials that can change their thermal properties on demand, perhaps by altering their structure at a microscopic level.
There are already materials that change color based on temperature, like those mood rings we had as kids.
Oh, yeah.
So applying a similar principle to heat regulation isn't completely out there.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. That's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And what about the self-cleaning aspect? Is that where the nanobots come and those tiny robots everyone's talking about?
Nanotechnology is definitely a key player here.
Okay.
But instead of just picturing tiny robots scrubbing away,
Right.
think about materials with self-cleaning properties built right in.
Some researchers are already experimenting with fabrics that incorporate enzymes which can break down dirt and organic matter, similar to how things decompose naturally in the environment.
So no more piles of laundry.
Oh.
I like where this is going.
Yeah.
But this whole nutrition thing, delivering vitamins through your clothes, that's where I start to get a little skeptical.
Yeah, I understand the skepticism, but think of it this way. We already have nicotine patches and other transdermal drug delivery systems.
Right.
It's about finding ways to transport specific molecules across the skin barrier. Now, achieving something as complex as a fully balanced diet
Yeah.
through your clothing is a whole other challenge.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so delivering a few key vitamins might be feasible down the line, but replacing meals entirely is still firmly in the realm of science fiction.
For now, absolutely.
Right.
But even if we could just address common deficiencies like vitamin D through our clothing,
Right.
that would have a huge impact on global health.
I see your point. It's all about baby steps, right?
Mm.
But let's say we do eventually crack the code on this self-sufficient cloth. What would that mean for the fashion industry as we know it? Would everyone just be wearing the same thing?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Imagine having a base garment that provides all these essential functions.
Wow.
Temperature control, self-cleaning, maybe even some basic nutrient delivery.
Okay.
And then you could customize it with different layers, colors, textures, whatever reflects your personal style.
So it's less about eliminating fashion and more about shifting the focus. Instead of constantly buying new clothes, we'd be investing in this one super garment and then personalizing it over time.
Exactly.
And think about the environmental benefits.
Oh, yeah. Huge.
Reduce textile waste, less need for washing machines and all the energy they consume.
Right.
It could be a major step towards a more sustainable future.
For sure.
This all sounds great, but I have to ask, how realistic is this really?
Yeah.
Are we talking about something that could happen in our lifetime, or is this more of a far-off pie-in-the-sky idea?
That's a good question, and one that doesn't have a simple answer.
Right.
Many of the technologies needed are still in their early stages.
Yeah.
Creating nanobots that are safe, effective, and capable of the complex tasks we've been discussing. That's a huge hurdle.
So we're not going to be throwing out our washing machines just yet.
Probably not.
But it sounds like there's a lot of exciting research happening that could bring this concept closer to reality.
Absolutely. Each breakthrough in nanotechnology, material science, and biotechnology brings us one step closer to making this seemingly impossible idea a possibility. And even if the full vision doesn't come to fruition, the journey itself will likely lead to innovations we can't even imagine right now.
So true, so true. Okay, so we've established that the self-sufficient cloth isn't quite ready for prime time, but let's say, for argument's sake, that we do get there. What kind of impact could this have on our health and well-being?
Well, the potential benefits are pretty significant.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where your clothing could help protect you from extreme weather conditions,
Yeah.
ensure you're getting essential nutrients, and even filter out harmful pollutants from the air.
So it's like your clothes become this protective shield, helping you stay healthy and resilient no matter where you are or what you're doing.
Exactly. It could be a game changer, especially as we face growing environmental challenges and health concerns.
I can see how that would be a huge advantage. But wouldn't we become overly reliant on this technology? What happens if our self-sufficient clothes malfunction or get damaged?
That's a valid concern. Just like with any technology, we'd need to consider potential vulnerabilities and build in safeguards.
Right.
Maybe there would be backup systems, or perhaps the technology would be designed to degrade gracefully, ensuring basic functionality even in a compromised state.
It sounds like there's a lot to consider beyond just this technical feasibility.
Yeah.
We'd need to think about the ethical implications, the potential social impacts. It's almost like we're talking about more than just clothes at this point.
You're right. It's about a fundamental shift in how we think about clothing technology and our relationship with our own bodies.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating and complex concept with far-reaching implications.
Yeah, it really is a fascinating idea. And, one thing that I was thinking about is how this whole self-sufficient clothing concept fits into like the history of fashion.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like such a radical departure from everything that's come before.
It's a really interesting point. You know, clothing has always played such a multifaceted role in human society, right?
Yeah.
It's about protection from the elements, obviously, but it's also about self-expression, social status, cultural identity.
Right.
The introduction of this kind of technology would undoubtedly disrupt all those traditional notions.
It's almost like we'd be going back to the basics, back to the original purpose of clothing is shelter and protection, but this time with a high-tech twist.
Precisely. And just like previous innovations in clothing, from the invention of the sewing needle to the introduction of synthetic fabrics, this too would likely have a profound impact on how we view ourselves and interact with the world around us.
I'm curious, how do you see the fashion industry evolving if this technology became widespread? Would we still care about style and trends if the primary function of clothing was to keep us alive and healthy?
That's a big question, and one that's really hard to answer definitively. It's possible that we'd see a shift towards a more minimalist aesthetic,
Yeah.
With a focus on durability, functionality, adaptability. But I think human beings are inherently creative, and the desire to express ourselves through clothing is deeply ingrained.
Yeah.
So even in a world of self-sufficient garments, I suspect there would still be a place for fashion, just maybe in a different form.
So instead of seasonal trends and fast fashion, maybe we'd see more emphasis on personalized customization. Like you have your base garment that does all the heavy lifting, so to speak, and then you build on that with different accessories, colors, embellishments, whatever reflects your individual style.
Exactly. It could open up a whole new world of creative possibilities, blurring the lines between clothing technology and art. And who knows, maybe this new approach to clothing would lead to a more sustainable fashion industry, one that's less focused on consumption and more aligned with the principles of circularity and resource conservation.
That would be amazing. But as we've been discussing, there are also potential downsides to consider. Earlier, we touched on the risk of exacerbating existing social inequalities. But could this technology also create new forms of vulnerability?
That's an important point.
Yeah.
If we become overly reliant on this self-sufficient clothing for our basic needs, we could be more susceptible to technological failures or disruptions. Imagine a scenario where your clothing malfunctions, leaving you exposed to extreme temperatures or without access to essential nutrients. That could be a life or death situation, especially for those living in harsh environments or with limited resources.
That's a sobering thought. It highlights the need for careful design redundancy and fail-safe mechanisms. We wouldn't want to trade one set of vulnerabilities for another, especially when it comes to something as essential as clothing.
Absolutely. And there's also the question of data privacy.
Oh, yeah.
If our clothes are constantly collecting information about our bodies, our movements, our environment, who has access to that data and how is it being used?
It's like we're walking around in a data collecting suit and we don't even realize it. We need to think carefully about the implications of that and ensure there are strong safeguards in place to protect our privacy.
Right. It's not just about the technology itself, but about the entire ecosystem that surrounds it. Manufacturing processes, the data infrastructure, the ethical frameworks. We need to approach this holistically and thoughtfully to ensure that this innovation benefits humanity as a whole, not just a select few.
It sounds like there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. It's not just about the cool factor of having self-cleaning, temperature-regulating clothes. It's about the potential for this technology to reshape society. the
Right.
economy, and our very relationship with the world around us.
Precisely. And that's what makes this concept so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's not just about solving technical challenges. It's about grappling with these complex questions about human needs, desires, and values.
Okay, shifting gears a bit, the article also mentioned that this self-sufficient clothing could give humans a significant evolutionary advantage. Can you expand on that a bit?
Sure. Think about it this way. Humans have always sought ways to adapt to their environments, right? We've developed tools, built shelters, created clothing to help us survive and thrive in a variety of conditions. This self-sufficient clothing, in a sense, takes that concept to the next level. It's about augmenting our natural abilities, enhancing our resilience, and expanding our capacity to live in and explore different environments.
So it's like we're giving ourselves a technological boost to our natural evolution.
In a way, yes.
Yeah,
And it's not just about physical adaptation.
yeah.
It's about freeing up time and resources that we currently devote to basic needs like clothing, maintenance, and food production.
Right.
Imagine what we could accomplish if we could dedicate that time and energy to other pursuits: scientific discovery, artistic expression, community building.
It's almost like we're talking about a whole new era of human potential where our basic needs are taken care of and we're free to focus on higher level goals. But I wonder what would happen to all the industries that currently rely on traditional clothing production and food systems. Would they just become obsolete?
That's a valid concern. The widespread adoption of this technology would undoubtedly disrupt those industries, potentially leading to job losses and economic upheaval.
Right.
We need to anticipate these challenges and start thinking about how to manage this transition in a way that's fair and equitable for everyone.
It's a reminder that even the most promising innovations come with these complex trade-offs. It's not enough to just develop the technology we need to think about the social and economic implications as well.
Exactly. It's about finding a balance between progress and responsibility, ensuring that this technology serves humanity as a whole rather than creating new forms of inequality or division.
This conversation is really making me think about the interconnectedness of everything. This one seemingly simple invention could have ripple effects across society, the environment, even our very evolution.
That's the nature of disruptive innovation. It has the power to transform not just our lives, but also the very fabric of our world.
It's both exciting and a little daunting,
Yeah,
but I'm definitely leaning towards excitement. The potential benefits are just too significant to ignore.
I agree. And even if this specific technology doesn't pan out exactly as we've envisioned,
Yeah.
the conversations and explorations it sparks are invaluable. They push us to think beyond our current limitations and imagine a future where anything is possible.
Well said. It's all about expanding our horizons and challenging our assumptions. But I think we've covered a lot of ground today, and I want to make sure we have enough time to delve into some of the more philosophical aspects of this concept.
I'm ready when you are.
So we're back, and this whole conversation about self-sufficient clothing has really gotten me thinking about the bigger picture. It's not just about the technology itself, is it? It's about what this technology says about us, about like our hopes and fears for the future.
Yeah, that's a great observation. I think any truly groundbreaking innovation forces us to confront our own values and beliefs. This concept in particular challenges us to reconsider our relationship with nature, with technology, with our own bodies.
Exactly. Earlier, we were talking about how this clothing could give us a sort of evolutionary advantage, but it also makes me wonder if we'd be losing something in the process. Like if we're constantly shielded from the elements and our clothes are taking care of our basic needs, would we become disconnected from the natural world?
That's a really thought-provoking question. It's almost like a paradox, isn't it? On the one hand, this technology could help us adapt to a changing environment and overcome the challenges we face. But on the other hand, it could create a new kind of dependence, a reliance on technology that might make us more vulnerable in the long run.
It's almost like we'd be trading one set of challenges for another. Instead of dealing with the elements, we'd be dealing with the potential pitfalls of technology, like malfunctions, glitches, maybe even hacking. I mean, who knows what a tech-savvy fashion criminal could do with access to your self-sufficient clothing?
That's a bit of a dark path, but it highlights an important point. Just because we can develop a technology doesn't mean we should. We need to think carefully about the potential consequences, both intended and unintended, and weigh those against the potential benefits.
It's all about finding that balance, right? Progress without recklessness, innovation, without losing sight of our humanity.
I think that's a great way to put it. And that's where the real work begins, the conversation about how we want to shape this technology and what kind of future we want to create with it. It's not just about the engineers and scientists. It's about all of us coming together to consider the ethical, social, and philosophical implications.
So it's not just about creating the self-sufficient cloth, it's about creating a future where that technology is used responsibly and for the benefit of all humankind.
Exactly. It's a future where technology enhances our lives
Yeah.
without diminishing our humanity, where we embrace progress while preserving the values and connections that make us human.
Well, I don't know about you, but this whole conversation has left me feeling incredibly inspired and a little bit overwhelmed, to be honest.
I understand completely. It's a lot to wrap your head around. But that's the beauty of these deep dives, isn't it?
Yeah.
We get to explore these complex ideas, challenge our assumptions, and expand our understanding of the world and our place in it.
Absolutely. And who knows, maybe one day we'll look back on this conversation and marvel at how far we've come. Or maybe we'll be grateful that we took the time to consider the potential consequences before rushing headlong into the unknown.
Either way, it's been a fascinating journey, and I'm glad we could share it together.
Me too. And a huge thank you to you for sharing your expertise and insights with us.
It was my pleasure.
And to you listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the mind-blowing world of self-sufficient clothing. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this concept, the possibilities, the concerns, the questions it raises. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep imagining the future.
This is DigitView.